Production funding for Ruckus has been provided by gifts from Hush Blackwell, Bank of America, Dave and Jamie Cummings, the Hartwig family, Barbara and Peter Gattermeyer, and by viewers like you. Thank you.
Welcome to Ruckus, our weekly food for thought fight over the news of the day and the trends of the times. I'm Mike Shannon. The Ruckettes join me shortly, and our topics this week: after KCI, what project takes off next? Steve Rose takes off the gloves and takes on Congressman Yoder, and the county executive takes some frank criticism, plus roast and toast. But we start with our Newsmaker segment and talk with the city manager of Kansas City, Missouri, Troy Schulte. Mr. Schulte joined the city in 1998, was named budget director in 2003, acting city manager in late 2009, and the acting was removed from his title in early 2011. Troy Schulte is at the center of what's going on at City Hall and beyond, and we welcome him back to Ruckus. Thank you for coming in, sir.
Glad to be here, Mike.
Well, the KCI vote was a big success for you and for the people in the city government and the others who backed it. But a quick question: if you're not someone who flies regularly or at all at KCI, and you live in Kansas City, Missouri, do you still get some benefit from a new KCI?
Oh, I think the non-flyers will benefit greatly. Not only will there be a tremendous amount of construction activity, but we think a new and improved KCI will be an economic engine generator. We've had a number of the folks in the business community saying if they had better connections, would allow us to expand the business. It is the largest single economic development tool at our disposal is a quality airport and a quality terminal. So we think having a terminal ready to go by the end of 2021 will provide economic development opportunities for a lot of folks who will never actually ever fly an airport. So
barring any unforeseen problems, KCI is underway. The project has been approved by the public, and you need to work out details with Edgemoor, and everything is headed for completion in 2021.
That's our goal. The plan is the memorandum of understanding with Edgemoor will be submitted to the City Council on November 30th. We started work on the environmental compliance requirements that's required by the Federal Aviation Administration the day after. Aviation will do that. So our goal is to break ground in the fall of 2018 and have a new terminal up by November of 2021.
So what's the next big project for Kansas City, Missouri government?
Well, there's a couple of them. We continue to implement our general obligation bond program that voters approved in spring. We're very thankful for that. We've got our first projects out. We are continuing to figure out a solution to the Buck O'Neill Bridge to replace that structure. We've gotten good support from the region. We're trying to figure out a way to come up with about $100 million of local funds that would be matched by the state to build a brand new structure that would accommodate not only current but future needs for that artery that handles 45,000 cars a day. We're working closely with the county to try to figure out their jail situation. Obviously, our inmates are over there.
Obviously, the county could use some help on the jail project.
And so we will be partners on that, and we've got to do pension reform for public safety
What
employees.
about the downtown convention hotel that we've heard so much about? It was announced, I believe, in mid-2015, and nothing has happened yet, and it hasn't started. There's not been groundbreaking.
As of yesterday, in my last conversation, they are on track for a closing of all the financial documents in around the 22nd of December, and we intend to have a shovel in the ground right after the first of the year. So that project is ready to go.
You had a fairly well-publicized spat with a few council members not long ago, where you said to them, and I'll just paraphrase what I think you said, if you don't like the way I do the job, you can fire me. I'll get more sleep, a better job, and make more money. Now, they backed off, as I understand it, and you sort of recanted the next day. Is everything quiet now? Are you back in good graces with the city councilman?
I think so. I serve at the pleasure of the mayor and 12 members of the city council, and if they want to make a direction change, I'm always happy to meet their needs, but I think at this point the city's got a great deal of momentum, and so I'm here for the duration or as long as they have me.
Well, and a lot of people who know city government have high praise for your success and your work as city manager. As I was researching a little bit of background about you, I came to find that you have served two mayors, Mark Funkhauser and Sly James, and I can think of know two more dissimilar personalities. That must have been an interesting experience, and is an interesting experience.
It is. It's the North Pole and South Pole. It's about as far of the extreme as possible. Mayor Funkhauser was obviously knew a great deal about how local government should work. I think he would admit his personal relationship skills with the public and the city council weren't what he wanted them to be, but and Mayor James is just the opposite. He's a dynamic person who I believe
he's
was
an extrovert, and
he loves the job being mayor. And I don't think Mayor Funkhauser really enjoyed being
more
mayor.
Of an introvert, I think.
Yeah.
As I told you before we started recording this interview, it's my impression that most residents of Kansas City, Missouri, or anywhere else, really understand what the city manager form of government is. People think the mayor has all the control, and the mayor has some control, but not nearly as much as the appointed city manager.
Right. Under our form of government, a council manager form of government, which is the predominant form of government in the cities in the metropolitan area, the mayor and council are responsible for policy setting, budget priority setting sessions, those types of issues, and the city manager is responsible for day-to-day administration of those issues. So I'm the guy that they should be yelling at if they want their trees trimmed or their potholes filled. Those are the types of issues we work with on a daily basis, just providing 300 different services across 317 square miles. So it's a challenging job, but I've got the privilege of working with 4,400 men and women who make it a lot easier.
Time is up. Thank you very much for coming in. A pleasure to see you again.
Always happy to be here.
All right. Thank you, sir. That is Kansas City, Missouri City Manager Troy Schulte. Now let's meet the panel and start a ruckus. Denidre Herbert is the managing editor of the Sentinel, a conservative website. Cynthia Wheeler is a marketing strategist, and attorney Steve Marakian wields enormous power and influence from his office at Wersch, Hobbs, and Marakian.
I wish that was true.
By the way, you probably have noticed there are 3 panelists tonight instead of the usual 4. And that is because one of our panelists, Terry Riley, had to cancel his appearance at the last moment, and we were unable to get anyone to fill in. I suspect that the 3 of you will have no problems filling the next 30 minutes or so on this program. You think you can handle that alone?
Yeah, we're glad Terry's not.
All right. And,
more time for me.
And
More
just before we start, a quick thank you to Tony and Tony's Kansas City for its very nice comments last week about Ruckus, and more importantly, about the host of Ruckus. So, as you could tell from my visit with City Manager Schulte, there is much enthusiasm about the city's future following massive voter approval of a one-terminal airport. But a city can't stand still. There's always another project, another vote, another challenge. A couple come quickly to mind: an April election to extend the capital improvement sales tax, first approved in 2007. And then there's that downtown convention hotel everyone says we need so badly, announced in 2015 by former Councilman Mike Burke. The project is not yet done or begun. It's supposed to start in January, which is, of course, 2018, about 3 years since the first announcement. And, of course, there are many other areas that may require attention by the local government and the people it represents. So, Cynthia Wheeler, you know Kansas City well. What should the city's agenda contain? At least, what are some of the key issues?
I think a big key issue is, again, infrastructure. I think building a great big one-terminal airport is great, but if you don't have the infrastructure to support it, going from the airport back into downtown Kansas City or further, I think that's a mistake for a whole host of reasons. It also gives you some economic advantages. We have lots of companies that are looking to relocate here in the Midwest. And 30 years ago when I arrived, I always thought this would be a great place to springboard.
You were a child when you arrived, right? 30 years ago?
Yeah, I was. I was 2.
I was thinking about 2 years old.
But I also think that there are some other issues that impact the economy that have to do with social ills within our community that affect crime. So unless we're spending money on other issues like education, small businesses. I don't foresee us getting any big bang out of the airport.
You mentioned infrastructure. Isn't that what that $800 million bond issue was supposed to take care of?
Let's just hope we use it well. That's the biggest challenge. I think as you look at the $800 or $800,000 million bond, you're looking at money that needs to be put to use in the community, but I think it should be spent in the community. And I think the biggest challenge we face is the tendency to go elsewhere, to have somebody else bring in good ideas.
Denise, as you look at Kansas City, Missouri government, what do you see as top agenda items, at least from your perspective?
Well, I first of all, I'm stunned. I have a comeuppance for predicting that the airport would lose. Or at
You're
least
buying people lunch, aren't you?
I'm buying a ton of people lunch. So
Sucked me right into that one.
sorry, Steve. I apologize. But I still think, despite that overwhelming win, that the way the process occurred was messy, it was sloppy, and this airport, if it ends up anything the way Denver Airport ends up, that took them 2 extra years to build it, $2 billion over budget. Yes, Kansas City needs infrastructure, but they already have an $800 million bond.
See, we all are doing
running.
it.
Right.
It's okay.
They already have money set aside to work on that. I really think they are doing themselves and the voters a huge disservice if they start, we're going to have this new shiny thing, so now we have to get the next new shiny thing. Let's get the first new shiny thing accomplished.
Steve, what about 18th and Vine? Is that a critical area that the city should be looking at? We think that the Parks Department may take over operation.
Sadly, no. I like the 18th, and I think it's important, and I like it. But I don't think it's high on the priority list. And I think that Cynthia mentioned a list of priorities very, very well. And quite frankly, I am more concerned and more excited about the bridge, the Buck Owens Bridge, because I think the infrastructure is more important, for example, than the hotel. We haven't had it for 3 years. We really haven't missed it. Fine, if they build it, that's fine. But I do think it's something, it's not really within the city's control directly, but it does have a very important impact, again, going back to what Cynthia said about the priorities. This school district problem is just astounding. And when you're talking about drawing people here to relocate headquarters, they have to see infrastructure. I think they will like the new airport, the shiny bauble that we're talking about. But I also think they've got to have a school district that works. And it's so sad to see the recent report that came out that said the accreditation is probably not going to happen again this year.
It's provisional.
And that's unfortunate.
And Cynthia, you once worked for the school district, had the world's toughest job, public relations director for the Kansas City, Missouri School District. Are you surprised?
That they are struggling with? No, I'm not surprised. It's a shrinking district. Companies look for places to land where people can come work. And if I have to put in that bid process, okay, I'm going to pay you a little extra so you can pay for private schools because my public education doesn't meet the needs of your family, then I am not encouraging you to sit in the middle of my city proper and live and thrive and become part of the community. And it starts with education. Crime is part of that.
Absolutely.
And there are 13 school districts in Kansas City, Missouri, not just the Kansas City, Missouri School District. Kansas City Star's only local columnist who is a Republican, quasi-Republican, Steve Rose, is cautioning Republican Congressman Kevin Yoder about the risks he may face in next year's election. The problem, says Rose, is President Trump's unpopularity in the Kansas 3rd District and Yoder's support for some Trump policies, notably repeal and replace of Obamacare and tax cuts. Rose believes Yoder's future depends on how voters view President Trump a year from now. Rose says Trump will remain controversial and unpopular in the 3rd District. But Denise, what do you say?
Steve Rose is wrong. First of all, the Democrats and liberals, they're very energized right now. And so what Yoder, and those people who are energized right now, they're not going to vote for Yoder if his percentage of voting with Trump goes down to 0. They're not voting for Yoder. So what Congressman Yoder needs to do is rally his base. And he has been strangely absent. You used to not be able to throw an elbow without hitting Kevin Yoder. I mean, he was at every meeting, every Chamber of Commerce, every coffee. He's nowhere to be found, and I think that's an effort on his part to distance himself a little bit from his base. And I think that is a huge mistake because he needs every single one of them to vote in 2018, and he needs every single one of them to vote for him. He only won by 51% in 2016. He lost 8% of those votes to a libertarian who I'm guessing would likely be on his team. He needs to find those folks. He needs to get them energized. And I don't think you do that by voting against repealing Obamacare and voting against tax reform.
And Hillary Clinton carried the 3rd district, right, in the 2016
yes.
election.
But what about the gerrymandering? Let's just be honest. Douglas County is gone.
Yeah.
All right, the 3rd district.
The court did that.
No, the court didn't do it on its own. It had permission and it had interest, and it happened. I think for us to sit here and say it was all about the court, the gerrymandering that continues to take place in the United States affects the voters who are paying attention to policy.
Well, one of the counties is Wyandotte, which, except for me and my wife, is all Democratic.
Well, I don't necessarily believe that either. I think voters are paying attention to policy. We have a man in the White House who has branded his policies and his agenda. And so what they are doing now is, oh my God, people who were not voting before are interested. I'm just a bill resonates.
I want to ask you something, Steve, about what Steve Rose said in the column. He says Yoder votes with Trump or Trump policies 94% of the time. Don't we expect people elected as Republicans to vote rather along the line of a Republican in the White House?
Yeah, this is where Steve's article, there were a number of things he said in there that I agree with. And his analysis that Yoder is in a precarious position, that's all accurate. And his analysis that Trump's popularity is somewhat questionable, though I disagree with his total assessment. But that kind of an attack or criticism is absurd. For example, when President Obama was in office, Emanuel Cleaver voted with President Obama, I would bet 99% of the time, if not 100% of the time.
I thought it was higher, yeah.
And again, that's not a criticism.
No.
You're elected to represent your constituency. Donald Trump, despite the fact that there are lots of things you can criticize and that Kevin Yoder has to be careful about, is still a relatively popular Republican president in Johnson County. And there's other districts or other areas, like you say, other counties as well. What Kevin Yoder, the best thing going for him right now, okay, is he's getting cover from the Republicans in the Senate. Basically, Kevin Yoder, what he should be doing is basically saying, I'm voting for the tax bill, I'm voting to repeal Obamacare, because the Senate is blocking all of this. So he's getting cover. This is popular with his base, and the Republicans in the Senate, okay, are screwing everything up for all of it.
That's why he has to be out there explaining that to people, because you understand that, and I understand that, but the general public is just, the general conservative voter thinks, what is Congress doing?
And he will. But you're right, he has to do that.
Cynthia, I think one of the things Steve Rose talks about in his column is that Yoder is going to support a tax cut, and he says that is unpopular. Are tax cuts unpopular now?
I don't think that tax cuts are unpopular, but what I do think we all should be paying attention to is the experiment that Brownback and Yoder joined in on that has paralyzed the Kansas economy. That is not a falsehood. No, that is not a falsehood.
How about the economy that improved when the Reagan administration cut income taxes?
Did it really?
And it improved.
Did it really?
Yeah.
This tax bill, and Cynthia makes a point that it's a good Democratic talking point, but the reality is this tax bill that the House is approving for the country is not the Brownback tax plan. It's not even close. Okay, and trying to equate the two is simply a misnomer. The reality is Yoder should be supporting the House version of the tax bill.
I lose my child care tax credit in a wash. You want me to keep going?
You get the double.
I can't. No, I don't.
Well, you don't know yet because nobody knows yet because there's no law that has been passed or no legislation.
We can never have tax reform if nobody's ox gets gored. Everybody can't keep everything. That's what tax reform is about.
I understand that. But I also think I work in a school. That's what I do on the side. I spend my time in a school that's blighted. Teachers don't get the same tax credits.
Why?
All of this is going away.
Why do you believe that people deserve? Why do you think
I can only claim up to $200.
Why do you
so if I have
and you get double your
Okay,
I
can only imagine what this would be like if there were 4 people here.
Can you imagine?
Got to move on. Jackson County Executive Frank White is surely, let me start that again. Jackson County Executive Frank White, thank you, is surely familiar with the idea of teamwork. After all, he was part of the 1985 World Series Championship Royals. Now, as a government leader, White finds his presumptive teammates, the county legislature, may be the opposing team. They're battling over who can hire and fire. Vetoes are issued and overridden. And legislators are claiming white staff can't get the fundamental work of government done. Now, Steve, you watch government for a long time. How do you analyze this problem, and what is the probable solution, if any?
Well, ultimately, Frank White is going to lose this battle because the legislature has too much power. I don't disagree with what Frank White is saying, and the reality is he's had some setbacks. The major problem he's got is he's not been able to come to grips with or find a way to resolve this county jail problem. The Jackson County Jail is a massive problem. It's hideous. If you ever want just to lose your lunch, spend an hour and go into the Jackson County Jail. It's unlivable. It's got to be fixed. Frank White has not found a way to do that. But this continual squabbling over whether or not they need to hire more people, I agree with Frank White. The one thing that is certain besides death and taxes is we don't need more employees in the county government. We don't.
Do we need a new jail, though, an actual new structure?
My God, it is, you talk about unconstitutionality, okay? It is absolutely cruel and unusual punishment to be put into the Jackson County Jail. If you've got to be held in that hellhole for more than 24 hours, I mean, your life is at risk.
And you speak from experience.
The toilets don't work.
He's representing people.
Representing people
Not
who are
as a
still
lawyer,
sitting.
he speaks from experience.
I'm telling you, it is ungodly.
So why are we still where we're at? So why are we still here? Why are they still sending prisoners?
Hello, I'm the host here, and I'm
I
trying to ask you a question.
I understand that. I'm not trying to be rude, but why?
Because there's no place else to send them. That's the problem.
If you guys will hang on a second. Frank White has appointed a commission, a group, to study what to do about the jail. And there was a group that did the same study a couple of years ago, and the county prosecutor says, this is just ridiculous. We already have all the information. What do you think about that?
I'm sorry, I hate to say this, Frank, but I agree. We already know what's wrong. It's time to fix it.
Yeah.
Okay, you can't
Isn't that what you do when you don't have an answer? You give it to a commission to study?
Well, no. At this point, I don't need to give it to a commission a second time or a consultant a second time. I have to agree. It's time to fix it.
Do you think legislators are taking unfair advantage of White's inexperience? I mean, after all, he was appointed to the job initially by the legislature when Mike Sanders resigned, and then he was elected. I mean, these are the folks who put him in power, and now they seem to be unwilling to cooperate with him on some of these projects.
Well, I have a theory about governments in general. They have all these multi-jurisdictional issues, and everybody's trying to build their own little empire. And I don't know that it's not Frank White's fault, and I don't blame the legislature either. This is what governments do. This is what bureaucracies do as they grow. I actually think Mr. White is correct right now in this particular instance. But I don't. He's, as you said, as Steve said, he's going to lose this fight. He'll lose the argument, and the jail may or may not get replaced. I didn't realize it was bad, as Steve says.
And it looks, Steve, like there may be the legislature has an attorney and White has the county attorney, and
so while
that's not going to be
the
good.
taxpayers get to pay for all of it.
Have them
We
battling
spend all
each
that
other.
money.
I mean, that will be problematic, won't it?
Oh, absolutely problematic. I mean,
good news for attorneys.
Technically, they have the right to do that. Yeah, good news for attorneys and so forth. But again, it is very unseemly. It's similar to in the federal government when the president's lawyers are fighting with the attorney general's lawyers. It's just nonsense, but it happens, and it's going to happen here as well.
So are we going to get a new jail out of this one way or the other?
Eventually, but unfortunately, it will impact our economy, the taxpayer, while everybody is drawing lines in the sand and fighting.
At least
ridiculous.
I think $150 to $180 million. The question may be, where does that come from?
Put them in the hotel.
That's what I don't understand. Kansas City is always floating a bond issue. Like I swear there's one on the ballot like every 10 minutes. And they have all these massive problems that the jail has been a problem for a while.
Okay.
Does everybody have their heads in the sand for
Now we're going to
months,
head to the soapbox for Roast and Toast, where the Ruckettes have 30 seconds each to pander or slander, not really, as they discuss people and events in the news. And we begin with Cynthia.
So my toast today is to the American voters who recognize the value, the privilege, and their right to cast a vote. Recently, during the month of November, we have seen changes that have swept America. I don't think it's about Democrats or Republicans. I think it's about the American people realizing that they are here to pay attention to policy and not rhetoric.
All right, Denidri.
My roast this week goes to the New York Times, which this weekend ran a column entitled, "Can My Children Be Friends with White People?" First of all, it might be the most racist thing I've ever read, and it honestly belongs on a white power website, not the New York Times. Shame on the editors for publishing it. And honestly, somebody ought to go talk to this gentleman, somebody from social services, and do something about his children. His children are going to need to learn to get along with all people, including white people, whether the author likes it or not. Shame on the New York Times.
Author is a law professor, by the way.
I saw that.
Steve?
Thank you. For all you liberal media bias deniers, here's real-time proof. Liberal Dem Senator Bob Menendez corruption trial is in its 8th week, with the jury still out after 10 days. Total coverage, all networks except Fox, 2 minutes. The KC Stars had no coverage at all of this trial. Compare that with the coverage for conservative Judge Roy Moore, who is not a senator, is not charged, but there's wall-to-wall coverage of his guilt by accusation. Except for the comics, the KC Star is completely worthless. Though I have to say, Mary Sanchez's columns do give me comic relief from time to time.
And finally, the nation has survived the first year of President Trump's term in office. Across the country on the first anniversary of his election, critics were showing their disgust by screaming at the sky. Maybe it's not only the president who sometimes acts childishly. And that is Ruckus for this week. We're away for Thanksgiving and special KCPT programming and events. We return December 14th at 7. Now for the Ruckettes and the crew, Mike Shannon saying thanks very much for watching. Happy Thanksgiving and good night.